Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another webinar deep dive, volume 7. We're in June, half a year gone already. Very exciting. Hopefully, everyone has been having a fantastic week and is looking forward to another week of excitement. We've got a uh, great agenda installed today. Recently, we've had some massive updates on the quality of life improvements around purchase order handling, inventory management, automation, and utilizing that component of the software to really improve your processes and deliver back exceptional return on investment, certainly from a time point of view. But the biggest reason why you look to an inventory management system such as Jobman is to then massively reduce mistakes and error handling. And that's the big one because that's the real cost factor involved. So a lot of companies come to Jobman originally looking for scheduling tools, capacity, lead management, faster and more efficient quoting. But then as you get more use out of the software and you dive a little bit deeper in, you start looking for what else it can do. And one of the big things that it can really help you manage is your catalog and then your inventory on that side as well. There's a lot of great automation built in there, but there's some nuance to the system. And I think for a lot of people, it's a bit like estimating. When you first meet an estimating platform, the first thing you do is you go, but I've done it this way for, 50 years. I'm not sure I want to move that way. And then once we show you the benefit of being able to quote through the system quickly, efficiently, accurately, profitably, and then utilize that information to then manage the capacity and scheduling in your system via your jobs, it makes a lot of sense to move and use more of that process. Purchase ordering is one of those things that also falls in that category. Most companies have processes they've been dealing with for a long period of time, and it's sometimes hard to see how moving into a system fully can really give you the maximum benefit. So that's what I want to do today. I want to go through and actually show you the software. We're going to spend far less time in slides and actually jump in the software and have a bit of a look around at what you can utilize to improve those processes and then how Jobman can really help deliver better results for your company. So the agenda for today is very straightforward. We're going to deep dive into inventory automation sourcing and the purchase order flow so you can really get the best out of the software for your company and really look I'm going to simplify it down so you can see it in some very good base level use cases. And what I want to focus on today is those real use cases, questions that have come throughout the years from people utilizing the software and training and support and where they're looking to improve, how it can be used, and most importantly, what some of the little gotchas have been over that time for people. So if we can put that into one recording so that if your next part of your journey with Jobman is setting up your purchase ordering flow and your inventory management control, then you've got all the information in one place. You know exactly what to do and what you're looking for to get the best out of the system. And I also want to highlight the new quality of life improvements that we've brought in to really help companies get the most out of this part of the software. Go and make you run through this flow here. But what I thought would be really handy to do, and I really appreciate one of the technical team being able to put this together for us, is just to give you a little bit of an understanding about the magic behind the magic. So one of the big first steps that people get to take advantage of with the inventory management flow is what we call auto sourcing. And it can lead to some serious confusion, I'll be honest. One of the great things about building a platform that's highly intelligent is it can provide a lot of benefit to your business. One of the downsides is understanding how that works to get the most out of it can be a little bit nuanced. So what we want to do is we want to take away the fog today and take the magic out of the magic, which sounds a bit boring, but really put this together in a structured way so that you can see the best use case for your company. And I've done this several times with people over the last few weeks. And it's part of the reason the driving force behind wanting to put this webinar together is it seems to be a very common part of the software that people want to get more out of. So if we can, we've done plenty of really good webinar deep dives on scheduling, utilizing the capacity, quoting, job management, lead management, all that sort of behavior. I think it's time now to really focus on the last step, the last part. As you all know, Jobman is an end-to-end system. So we want to utilize the CRM to take contact into lead, give you better reporting, win you more leads, which in turn wins you more jobs, and then take those and that information into the jobs. That provides your estimate. Now you've got your actual to work with. Put those operations out to the team so they can test them so that we can report on that profitability. And then the last piece of that puzzle then is How then can we use the system to also purchase order and auto source from our inventory so that we have a full roundhouse operation through the software? And that provides not just that final piece of reporting, but a lot of really great automation to help improve your team. And one of the big parts to that is auto sourcing. So what I mean by auto sourcing is basically the ability for Jobman to look at a set of raw materials that's come into your job, whether it be via CAD import, whether you've manually added them, or if they're pulled through from quote presets you've built or as part of your products. The next step, of course, is to then optimize those materials and purchase order them. So part of that and the elimination of waste in your business is you want the ability for the system to first run a check to see if any of that inventory is available and run off and grab that first. Then whatever's left, push that back out to purchase ordering so it can be batch ordered. And that's one of the first major benefits of the software, whereas the auto sourcing and then the batch ordering, allowing you simply to have a long list of pending items. It's pulled through from multiple jobs and work orders you're building and be able to click one button and go, right, give me all the stuff that I'm waiting for Hayfleet, for example, or Laminex or whatever your suppliers may be. So it's a very, very intelligent system from that front. One of the tricks or one of the nuances, and part of the reason I enjoy doing these webinars is so that we can lift back the curtain, so to speak, is there's a very particular set of parameters that Jobman is looking for when it's going to go handle your auto sourcing. And it's not necessarily as simple as you might think. And the main reason for that is in fact to protect your business. And there's a tricky fine line between automation tools and effective, what I call user case software. So one of those nuances is that there are two ways in which inventory can be added to your system. The first way is the most common and standard way, which is you have catalog items. So you've entered your materials from your suppliers with those SKUs. You may have built some substitutes around items where you have multiple suppliers that offer you different price points. And then you simply add those like a stock take digitally directly with the software. Awesome. So we've got, 100 boards, 50 hinges, 20 legs, so on and so forth, or whatever your materials may be for your business and your manufacturing side. The second way that materials can come into your inventory is via purchase order. So that is to say, let's say you've got a common hinge and you run that hinge in virtually every job you do. So you've add 5 jobs to the system. Each of those jobs need 5 hinges. You now need 25 hinges. There's 25 hinges waiting in your purchase order area of the software ready to go. Nice and easy to collect. As part of that, you also want to add some stock because you're using it every week. So it makes sense to have a bit of a backlog. So what you might then in turn do is add another 25 units to the purchase order. So now that you've got 25 in your inventory for stock, unassigned, 25 assigned, 25 unassigned. When that purchase order is received, and don't worry, I'm going to show you through all this so it's not just me talking, I'll actually have a look at the software. When those items are now received, you now have 50 items sitting technically in your inventory management. 25 assigned, 25 unassigned. That means if you were to add another job and go in and source that item, Jobman knows you've got 25 sitting there. So far, so good. I mean, that's what inventory management control is all about. Keep it nice and straightforward and simple. You've got other items, they link, they come down, you purchase order them, you source them, you run the jobs, and then you pick list them to get them back out of your inventory and tell Jobman that, hey, we've used these materials for these jobs. Makes a lot of sense. Where there can be some delineation, this is one of those great nuances that I wanted to talk about, is just because you order something doesn't necessarily mean that's what the purchase order is going to reflect when the item comes in. And I'll give you some really good use case examples. Use case example number 1, trade pricing. So let's say you buy a whiteboard and use it all the time in carcasses, and I'm going to focus on cabinet makers, a lot of my examples today, but you can easily transfer this information to any other manufacturing sector. Let's say you buy one sheet at a time and they give you that whiteboard for $20 a square meter. If you have a bigger project and you turn around and you say, hey, next month we've got 3 or 4 units we're going to be working on. Therefore, we know in advance that we're probably going to need somewhere in the vicinity of about 100 sheets to do those jobs. A common practice and user case would be then to go back to your supplier and say, hey, if we place a large bulk order rather than a couple of sheets at a time, let's say we buy 100 of those sheets, will you give us a better price? And the supplier usually will say yes, or they may already have trade pricing built into their catalogs so that they're ready to handle this sort of thing as a natural thing. They want to encourage you to buy more. The more you buy, the easier their jobs are, and so on and so forth. So they're happy to reward you for that instance. Now, when you put that whiteboard in your inventory from a catalog item, the price is set at $20 a square meter. Easy, easy relationship. So if I now go in and I add a couple of boards to a job and I hit search, Jobman can go find that board. All the information between those two items links perfectly. You got added from your catalog to your raw materials, and it's also sitting in your inventory, linked to the idea of the what we call the attributes of the item in your inventory. Now, you don't need to worry too much about that, but when you think about an attribute, think about things like SKU, category, color, brand, finish, price per unit, etc. So all the information that makes that whiteboard the whiteboard digitally in your system. That's a very easy relationship. It's very simple. It's a one-for-one relationship. All the information matches. It's very straightforward. However, the second way you can put items or you receive items into your inventory is via what we call the purchase order. Now, typically when you order this stock, it's a one-for-one relationship. You're ordering it one at $20. However, in this instance, you're going to order 100 at a time, and the supplier is going to give you a discount down to $18 a square meter. Technically, when that item is received into Jobman, it's being received from the purchase order attributes, not the original catalog item. And that's important. You want that information. You want to know that those 100 sheets in inventory, you're getting at $18 a square meter, not $20 a square meter, because it affects your job costing. So it's really important. And then when you are looking through your inventory, you need to have an accurate inventory stock control number to understand the differences between those prices. Now, that's just one user case example. And the reason why that's so important to understand is because now, if you add a catalog item to your resource materials inside a job, there is not a one-for-one relationship with the inventory item. The inventory item itself matches on every attribute except price. Now, that's super important to know. And the reason why that's so important to know is because up until last week, in order to protect your business and your reporting and make sure that Jobman never makes assumptions outside of, especially when we're doing things automatically, but outside of your standardized procedure, our job is to protect your business. So we've always been reliant on an exact one-for-one relationship to go find inventory management. Doesn't sound ideal from from a user case point of view, but it's very important that we do that. And the reason being is you never want a software platform, and I think I've said this in about 100 webinars today, that makes assumptions on your behalf that then breaks other things. It's very important that we protect you. Now, when it comes to manual sourcing, not a problem. So if you clicked on the raw material in the job and you went to source it and you looked at the options, Jobman can be far less strict around what we need to match on, which means you could see that inventory item. You can see the $18 a square meter inventory item in there and say, hey, I've got 100 sheets here sitting at a special price. This is a small job. I won't use them. I'll use my normal price. I'm saving those ones for a big project. So we put the power in your hands. And the advantage of that is you know that your system is behaving as you would expect it to be. There's nothing weird going on, and we've put the control in your hands. What we sort of worked out through that process, and we're very fortunate that we have a very large customer base and they are all fairly heavy users of the software, is that whilst the strictness of that relationship was phenomenal at protecting your software, it caused some weird user case situations which didn't make a lot of sense. This is one of those nuances in understanding the difference between a catalog item to inventory and purchase order. So what does all that mean? Basically, what we did was we took a step back and we said, okay, we want to protect your business and your software, but we need to make sure this area is highly usable. So one of the things we've improved now is instead of looking at 100% attribute relationship, we've massively reduced the test for that relationship for auto sourcing, which should in turn make it far easier to utilize this area of the software, make a lot more sense from a user case point of view, but also we haven't gone so far out of the realm of possibility that we potentially could create problems. Because you can remember that one of the great benefits, or I guess great concerns with any software that makes that makes it easy for people to get themselves into weird situations that can break things is simply that if we make it really easy and people that are not necessarily understanding your process in your business come in and just start doing things, you can very quickly throw those numbers out. And inventory is one of those areas where you want to be fairly specific because the idea behind the software should be you enter it once and then you essentially have a digital record for the history of your business. It should be a very unusual common case for you to have to actually do an accurate stock take. The system should take care of that. It's designed for that. So one of the things we've done, and that's why I wanted to grab this great flow chart before we kicked off, is we've now lessened the impact of that search parameter. And that is to say now we are looking for SKU, category, color, range, brand, finish, and the dimensions. So that means we're not too worried about the supplier anymore, which is great. It means if you have certain items, and I'll give you a great example, Blum hinges in Australia, Blum can be bought directly from Blum, from Lincoln and Century, and Wilson Bradley. So you have the same SKU, it's the same product code, it's the same hinge, you just have three different suppliers. And depending on who you bought it from, you want the system to be able to pick that up. So that's not a problem. You'll also notice we've removed the price restriction. So now in that instance where I have 100 boards sitting there at the trade pricing, $80 a square meter, through to my normal standardized boards, which are $20 a square meter, we can still find them for you and say, well, hey, they're in stock, it's the right product, you just got it at a better price, or maybe even the price has gone up. It doesn't matter. At least we can go find those items for you. Now, it sounds like a very subtle change, but I promise you it will have an absolutely monstrous impact on the way in which you can now utilize this and really get the best benefit of the software going forward. So this was a huge consideration. There's a lot of developments gone behind this. And now when we tie this all together with the use of minimum stock points, reorder points, substitutes, low purchase order management, material handling, etc., and so on and so forth, what I'm about to show you is an absolutely magic system with how you can really pretty much automate your entire purchase order flow. So I think that's enough on that. There's some other key points in here that are quite good. If you're watching this video and you want to pause and take a snapshot, please feel free to do so. That's why it's here. I think sometimes it's really useful for especially technically minded people to be able to get access to the information that is like the magic behind the magic, because it can then help you really improve your processes. And it's a nice clean map on the way through. We don't commonly put it out to people because for most people, they just want to go, hey, does the system work? Yep, awesome. And that's fine too. So look, I think what I want to do, like I said, I'm not going to bang on about slideshows today. I want to get in there and I want to show you what's happening so you get a really good understanding and you can get some absolutely magic benefit from this software. So I've done a couple of things in preparation. The first thing I've done, obviously, is I've added a number of suppliers and I've started working through my catalog. And in case you're wondering about where to find some of the information about what we're looking at today, as always, our release notes have come out from this week's release, and it was a big one, fantastic release, really excited about this one. There's a couple of other things on there which are quite useful for a lot of companies. I'm not going to cover them today, but you're welcome to read through them. One of the big ones I know is the ability now to go search and link invoices from your accounting software that don't necessarily sit in Jobman. So that's really exciting. A little bit of usability. Another massive one, which I would have loved to have covered, but just didn't make a lot of sense for what we're looking at today, is now the ability to select templates for job and item specs when printing. This is a common use case scenario in the system to date. We've had a really beautiful default setup. So you can build an item specification, you can modify and tweak it if you've got a bit of HTML knowledge, and then print it as a default. So it's all digital, it's in the system, everyone can see it from the office user mode to the kiosk mode, but not necessarily at all points. Do you want that spec looking the same? For example, a lot of companies like to produce item specifications they send to the clients, and they want that visual to be a bit different to the internal. The internal one's just got to be information. We don't care. We just want the system, our team, to be able to see it and take advantage of it. But if we're going to send that through to a client, we might want to jazz it up a bit, play with the formatting, make it a bit nicer. So that has been a huge update in the system now. You'll get a lot of use out of it, which means you can build some really beautiful item specifications. If you are not comfortable with HTML and CSS and you do want to take advantage of that, don't worry. We've got partners that are well equipped to help you with that, and often reaching out to them and getting some benefit out of building some beautiful templates in your system. There's a bit of a cost involved, but once you've done it once, it's yours forever. and you can take advantage of it 1,000 times. You think about how many times a day your team are looking at item specs or quote templates, or invoicing templates, purchase order templates. It's a really phenomenal part of the software, what can be achieved. So really exciting there. Won't go over the rest of it, not a problem. But just so you know, the information is always there. I'm sure you've come across it. So let's have a look at this flow and some of the great nuances of the system. So the first part to understand is the difference between quote pricing options and materials. And this is a common use case in our software. You want to take advantage of the ability to fast quote profitably. So what you do is you build what's called quote pricing options. So that is to say, I'll use board as an example again. If you're quoting on doors and the client says, I would like a grain finished door, you're not going to go into Laminex and Polytex, or Worldwide Timbers or QC, whoever you use. Please never think that I'm advocating for one particular supplier or another. I have just, from many, many conversations, people know the most common ones. So I like to use them so that you feel more engaged with the information I'm presenting. But instead of having to go through, the 14,000 options in that range, it doesn't really matter what the color is in that brand. It all comes to you at the same price. It's the supplier, the category of board, the finish that generally dictates the price. So what that allows you to do, obviously, in your quoting is produce style items that then can easily adapt to those ranges. So instead of having to have 14,000 options for your estimators and they spend 20 hours building a quote, I can simply go grain finish on all the doors. Jobman goes through all the products, works out the square meters of all the doors, applies the price range based on that material, and then puts it together. Fast, easy, efficient, profitable, phenomenal. However, when those materials come into your job, they're not real materials. They're what we call non-available to order materials. And I'm sure most of you, no matter your industry, have utilized this part of the software. It's big. I've covered it in other webinars, so I won't go through it again, but basically it's that ability to quickly build range pricing. What we want to do though is when it does come into the job, now we need to actually go order the exact material. The client has picked not just the grain board finish, but they've also picked the color. May not have picked the supplier, that might be up to you. You might have a few options there available and you may work with the best price or the preferred option based at speed of recovery. It's up to you. The system can handle it in both ways, but the most important thing is that we then change that material pricing to an actual board. So I'm going to use a really common example and show how you can take advantage of both the quoting, but then also step into the resource material really comfortably. And this is my example. So I'm just using 16mm white melamine board. Every carcass basically on the planet and every kitchen, laundry and bathroom has been built on it. So even if this isn't your manufacturing sect, you get it. You've opened a cupboard before, you've seen the whiteboard, you know what it is. Half of your house is probably built in it. So I've got what's called a quote pricing option built in, and I price out at $22 per square meter. That gives me a little bit of coverage from my overhead and my wastage. So when I'm quoting, I know I'm covered. However, when I actually go to order this material, I have two options that can come through. Option number one is I've got my Polytech 16mm white lamy, 16mm whiteboard, and then I've got my Laminex 16mm whiteboard. Now you can see here there's a difference in price depending on which supplier I go with. And generally speaking, most companies would have a preferred supplier for most of their options, whether it be hardware, board materials, sheet materials, etc. So one of the good things about Jobman is you'll notice that in here, I can actually set up a preferred option for the software. Now, the reason why that's so important is because it is the structure in which Jobman then goes and looks for sourcing. So getting back to that map, the first thing it's going to do is we need to give it an order in which to go look for things. Now, if you have a preferred supplier who you do most of your business with, that's going to be your preferred option, which means when I bring this catalog material and I go look for it, first thing Jobman's going to look for is that SKU. Brilliant. I'm looking for the Laminex board. Second thing it's going to say is, hey, hang on a minute. This is not an available order item. So go find me the substitutes that make sense for this item. And there I've built them here, nice and easy. And then the third thing it's going to do is, well, what order do you want me to go look for it? And the way the system works is the default is preferred. If you have not set a default for your substitutes, it then just goes to price. To highlight this, what I've actually done is I've set the more expensive item as the preferred. And I know that sounds weird because you're sitting there going, but in a user case scenario, the preferred would almost always be the better price option. Not necessarily the case. Some of your suppliers, depending on your region or area, may have better service. You might have a better relationship with the rep. You might have a better relationship with the company. They might be closer. They might hold more stock. There are a myriad of reasons why you would want to set something up as preferred that does not necessarily come down to price. But for the most part, if you don't want to go through and go to this level of setup with the software, you can just leave it as default and it will go look for the price. Cheapest price. Find the cheapest price first. And then if I can't find those in inventory, I'll then go find what else is available for you. So the reason I want to show you this is just to show you how easy this setup can be. So inside my materials, I've added three super important materials and they're all part of a category. So filtration system, super important. I have my 16 mil white melamine quote pricing option. Now, gotcha top trick number one. Even though this item is non-orderable, you need to give it an SKU. Reason being is SKU is the most common delimiter in most supply chains as to how to isolate between two products. So Jobman is no different. It basically goes, I need to know the difference in the SKU because that's the first and primary stepping point I will look at when I go sourcing or purchase ordering. So it tells the supplier basically everything they need to know in that one number. It's like, hey, this is the product we want from you guys in the background, in that system. They've got all the other information related. So in order to make this work, you are going to have that SKU. Could be anything you want. It's an internal reference point. I've just set mine up as QP, quote pricing, white carcass. Easy. For my hinges, I have QP hinges, QP handles, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what that SKU is, it's just an internal reference point for the system. So that's got you number one. A lot of companies set this up and they go, it's not finding my materials. That's why. We just need to give the system a baseline denominator to work with. As long as everything's got an SKU, we're good. Happy days. So secondary thing I did was I actually added, and I've got my beautiful imaging coming in. I know it's white, but hey, every little bit makes a difference in the system. I've now added those two materials directly from my suppliers, linked them out to the product listing on the website. So I've got a lot of information. Everything you're seeing here, I know it sounds like a little bit extra setup, but once you do it once, it's there forever and you can take advantage of it. Most importantly, when things change, such as pricing, it's very easy to send this information out, export it from Jobman, modify the pricing, bring it back in, and suddenly your catalog's up to date. And that is something that a lot of companies suffer with before they get to a job management system. So really exciting there. You can see that I've set my quote pricing at $20 a square meter, just so I'm always covered. Doesn't matter which supplier I get it from, I'm always covered. However, in my region, and again, this is not an endorsement, don't shoot me at the end of this webinar. But in my area, Laminex has the best service and they tend to have the most amount of stock. So I can rely on them constantly. Even though they cost me a little bit more, it's worth going to them because it just means if I have to place an order quickly, I'm more likely to get the stock. So that's part one. I've set that up, ready to go, nice and easy. You can utilize this process, and there's a number of other processes where you would want to utilize substitutes, things like legs, those who build cabinets with legs and things like that. But hinges is probably the most common example I can think of, especially in areas or countries where you buy from, say, a supplier such as Blum, but there might be multiple distributors. So again, the Blum hinge is the SKU, it's the product code, it is the denominator, it is the thing. However, you could technically buy it from one, two, three, maybe even four suppliers. So by taking just a few minutes to have that quote pricing option there for your hinges, that's your quoting taken care of. And the secondary benefit there is I can now turn around and say, hey, every time I add this to a job resource material, there's four substitutes to go look for. And now you know, now that you've seen this, you also know what it's going to look for first. Preferred, then price. Awesome. Number two, I've gone in here and inside my catalog materials, I've had a thought process around what it is I want to use these for. So my Polytech one is more of like I'm in the instance where I might just need a sheet. So I haven't set a minimum stock quantity order. I've just gone, I don't necessarily want that. However, for my preferred supplier, Laminex, who I'm going to be buying most of my stock from most of the time, I do actually want to make sure that I always have a minimum of 20 sheets in place. So this ties back into the new development with minimum stock quantities and reorder points. This is how you can start to get a feel for how intelligent this system is. So I've got 20 here, and it just so happens that so long as I order 30 sheets at a time, what's called a pack, I actually get that best price. So I get it down. Instead of being $22 a square meter for a single, I get it at $20 a square meter. And I always do that. So I may as well set it up at that price, $20 a square meter, with the rainbow pack ready to go. Sorry, the trade pack ready to go. so that as soon as my inventory drops below 20, I have 30 items that will be added to my purchase order. So that's automation number one. The most common question we get with a system like this is, how can I make my purchase ordering team easier? And a lot of companies think the way to achieve that is by adding more columns or grids throughout the software so you have more information. Absolutely not. The way we buy you back time, reduce waste, and certainly mitigate errors is build the software in a way that they can simply take advantage of it all in a couple of clicks. It comes down to a bit of groundwork, but again, squeeze is worth the juice is a saying I've heard about 40 times this week. Had to throw it in there. I love it. It makes sense. This little bit of setup, this couple of minutes you're going to spend making sure these things make sense for your business is going to buy you back hundreds of hours in the long term. So what does all that mean? It basically means now that if I go into my inventory, what I've done is I've got 18 sheets of Polytech. I placed an order a couple of weeks ago for a small job. I just had to buy some sheets in. Laminex was out of stock, so I pulled them in. Now, a couple of phenomenal bits of improvement around the inventory management system you would have seen recently. This is certainly my favorite. By default, now the system will remove items that have been assigned, so that if you just want to narrow in and look at what you have actually in stock on a shelf, that will be ticked off for you. However, if I do want to come in and I want to see, and again, you've got your category filtration. I can filter by supplier, location, brand. A lot of ways you can filter this information, even just search down the SKU. I can have a look at what has been recently assigned as well, but not yet pick listed. That is to say, it's been received, but hasn't been used by the group for this manufacturing. So you can see here that I've got 18 sheets and 7 of those have been used up. And I also had 10 sheets of Laminex come through, but a job soaked those up as well. So the reason why I wanted to show you that is because you can now see straight off the bat that I have no Laminex stock available. When I go to my purchase orders and I go up to my pending items and I have this ticked on, include low stock materials, there it is. I don't have to do the numbers. I don't have to do the maths. My team doesn't have to make mistakes and think about what's going on. Jobman's gone. We've used up the last 10 sheets that were in stock. We require 20 sheets at all time. So we're in the low stock mode, no problems. I want to now add 30 sheets to the next purchase order next time I place an order with Laminex, ready to go. Easy, automated, phenomenal. You're already seeing it. I can tell you, you're now starting to see how this fits together. And just by understanding some of those nuances, I promise it will absolutely make your job a lot easier in the long run. So that's part one. We've now solved the minimum stock quantity. We've now got substitutes for our materials. Now we want to go and action this in a real life setting so that you can see what then the benefit there is to your business. So let's go into a job. I'm going to pick a job at random. This job will do, 101. Doesn't really matter. All the information is there. So we've got materials coming into the system. Now, what I'm going to do, just to make this really clean, just so that this doesn't get blown up in front of everybody, I want you to see this happen in real time so you can see what's going on. So I'm just going to remove those items. And then imagine that was then to import directly from CAD or something along those lines. So I've got my optimized bill of materials and I'm looking to add my boards to the system. So the first thing I'll do is I'll make sure that I can pick up and create these that come through from my quote pricing from my cabinets. So let's say my 16 mil white melamine has come in from all my carcasses. I've got 10 cabinets in the job, and Jobman has said I need 16 sheets to do that. Not a problem. There it is, linked to my quote pricing, ready to go. There's no source on it right now. It's just a quote pricing option, but I'm going to need 10 sheets optimized into my process. And keep in mind, this would have come through from the quote. I just wanted to narrow down the information so it's a bit cleaner to see. Now, what I want to do is I want to go source those items. Now, typically, an inventory management system would say, well, this is not an orderable item. You now have to go in and find the thing you want because it might be a different color, SKU, blah, blah, blah. Because you now have access to those smarts via the substitutes, the actual catalog material sourcing, and an improved quality of life sourcing, I can now go off and source this, look for my location, and bang, there it is. I had 18 sheets of Polytech stock sitting ready to go in the warehouse. I can now go find that order. It's going to add those sheets into my system, ready to go, off and running, all in one click. And you can imagine that I might have multiple items sitting down here. I might have hinges. I might have legs. There might be a bunch of items that are pulled through from that job that make sense, that are all just set up as quote pricing options. And now the system can just run off and find them. Now, obviously, there are some delineations to this and some caveats. One, of course, is things like handles, for example. Most companies would sell handles based on ranges. So when your client again walks into your showroom and says, "Hey, I'd love that handle," you're not estimating and going out and saying, "Oh, it's Hayfley handle, SKU, blah blah blah, chrome polished finish, blah blah." They're not spending 3 hours finding that information. The client's looked up a board, and on that board are all the $20 handles, or $30 handles, or $40 handles, or $60 handles. So that's what you're using in the system. Your quote pricing range is basic handle $20. So it comes in and adds that, and it says we need 100 handles, therefore we need $2,000 worth of handles. When we actually go then to add those materials, you would be creating that directly from the category. You know what I mean? You'd come in here and you'd say, okay, well, that's not something I can do the substitute. So this is one of those areas where you wouldn't do the substitutes, but you can come in and then utilize it to actually find the handles or hardware available in your system to pull through. And right now I don't have any options in there, but you get the idea. So you can utilize these fields to delineate quickly and then go find the correct handle. And hopefully you know the SKU, that's in the item spec, another advantage of the item specs, to pull that information through. So all that's now fairly automated, looking good. Let's start covering some use cases, and common questions we get. So you remember I have 18 boards in stock. I've used 16. That means I've got two left. What happens if the client comes back and actually says, you know what, we'd also love you to do our bathroom. We're really impressed with what's going on in this job so far. We love working with your company. We'd like to do the bathroom. We're happy just to use the same materials, so it's got a nice mirror finish through our house. What then is the case for us to be able to add some more stock on? You go, not a problem, easy done. So let's imagine we're going to do the same thing again, and your team goes in and does the bathroom, does the optimization, runs it through the CNC tool or engineering CAD CAM, and says, okay, we need 6 sheets to get the bathroom done. So they just quickly add those resource materials into the job. Now, we know already that I had 18, I've used 16. That means I've got 2 left. That's important to know because 2 things are about to happen. Number one, we're going to take those last 2 sheets. The system is smart enough to know they're there. However, it's not enough to fill the job. So that means I need to go find 4 sheets. Common question we get, and that's part of the reason I wanted to show this use case, is why does it now separate the lines? Why do I need to source it twice? And it's for that exact reason. We want a system to be smart enough to help you through this process and make it automated. But in this instance, it's done its job. It's gone and found your remaining stock. It's pulled those items, linked them to the job, ready to go. You can see now inside my pick list that those items for inventory are waiting to be utilized by the team. So it's all nice and automated, flows happening. They can access that from the kiosk mode. But I now need to decide what to do with these 4 sheets. And the reason why that's so important is because I've now used up my Polytech stock, and my preferred supplier is Laminex. So when I run off now and I go place that additional sourcing, Jobman now does exactly what I want it to do, which is to say, I don't have those 4 sheets available in stock. I'm going to go need to add 4 sheets to a purchase order. I can't add this material to a purchase order because it's not available to order. It's a quote pricing option. So where are my substitutes to be able to then go take advantage of that? Laminex. Perfect. All right. Why Laminex? Because they're my preferred supplier. And I think that's really cool to show because now you get a really good feeling of what you can do in the software to really best help your practices for your business so that it's not just looking for the cheapest price or it's random or whatever. You now know with concrete confidence that if you set this up in this way, those items are going to be there. Why is that important? Because one of the secondary benefits to our incredible auto sourcing technology is also then our ease at which we can produce purchase orders. So here it is, 4 sheets for that job, and I need to bring my stock levels up, all in my low materials. I want to create a purchase order, bang, 1 click. Go find me all of the materials for Laminex that are currently waiting on these jobs. The purchase order's life just became 7,000 times easier. I don't care what your processes were previously. That is the catch. And one of the hardest things is, and I get it, and that's part of the reason I really wanted to do this webinar, is understanding how all that fits together so that you can then utilize the software to improve that process and take advantage. Takes a little bit of sort of working out so that you can then set your software up in a way that absolutely maximizes your efficiency. I mean, immediately now you can see it's wrapped it up. I've got job links set up. It's all ready to go. Assume I sent this order off to the supplier. You wouldn't have to do this. This will be handled by the system status update. Now that's come out. Now I want to show you the next bit, which is the coup de grace of what is now happening. 4 sheets, 30 sheets. This can be done from the kiosk again, so the team downstairs can handle it. It's now been received. Everything's activity logged. That's the other thing I love about Jobman. If you ever want to know who's doing what, where, why, how you've got maybe in a weird situation, why something's over here, check the activity logs. They're on virtually everything from purchase orders to the catalog materials to inventory. We give you a lot of information so that you can really backtrack and work out what's happening. So if you go to the shelf and you don't in fact have 34 sheets sitting there, that is why. But the reason I wanted to show you that was to show you the secondary part of the inventory management, which is now to say there's no Polytech stock available. That's all been used up. That got used in those 3 jobs plus the 20 sheets I had going. But I have now received the 30 sheets for Laminex ready to go. And if I just turn on that magic show a sign button, what I actually have sitting in stock though is the 6, 14, 44 sheets here of Lamy, and these are here, all the signs of jobs ready to go. They just haven't been used yet. So they're actually sitting there so that when the team actually goes in and then pick list those items, they get removed from here, giving you a really clean and straightforward update, keeping everything digital, keeping everything in one place. Most importantly, making your life super easy. Hey, we've stuffed something up. We need some whiteboard. What have we got available? One click. There it is. We've got 30 sheets. You can use 2 if you need them. If you need them, let me know. I need to reduce the quantity of the inventory so that when we go sourcing for these jobs, they're ready to go. So user case number 3, how intelligent is your system? That is to say that let's say you live in a regional, or sorry, you operate in a regional area, and it's very common, and it's not simply next day delivery on most of your items. And you've done that process I've just done, and sitting in the background of these 30 sheets. So they've been ordered. So they're basically what we call stock in transit. And then when you come through, someone comes in the next day and goes, oh, we've got no stock. I'm going to keep adding to this list. And they pull up the purchase orders. You have not yet received those items. Yes, the software is intelligent enough to know that I'm not going to keep adding the minimum pending item points because the stock is in transit. It knows it's been ordered. So it's not a problem. All that you'll see in that pending list are the items waiting to be extra ordered, the stuff above and beyond that's been coming through from your jobs being added in. So that's a really good point to add in. Fourth use case scenario, and I've had lots of good questions over the last couple of weeks. I've got plenty of user case scenarios to work with. In that instance where I added materials back into my job and I was putting that information in, what would happen if I added those materials, but the purchase order had not yet been sent? That is to say, I'd created the purchase order, someone's created the purchase order already, but I have not yet actually physically sent it across. Fantastic news, not a problem. Now, inside the software, if I add those materials again and push them out, it goes back into that pending list and you can add pending items directly to your purchase orders. So that solves that problem for you as well. So there's a lot of really good use case that we've thought about, throughout the software to improve this flow and process, but make your life much easier. And of course, now if I go in, now that I've got those 30 in stock, I come in and I do the same process yet again. And we say, we've also picked up the laundry. Very exciting. And I say, hey, I need 10 sheets for the laundry, no sauce on them, not a problem. Then I turn around and I source them. It's going to be a different job. It's all live. And we come back in. I can grab those items, 10 of them from inventory, ready to go. If I go back into my inventory, you're getting to see it now. You're feeling it. Bang, now we're down to 20 sheets, ready to go. Absolutely fantastic. And last user case I want to cover in this situation is, what if I turn around, create a purchase order for Laminex, and the reference is special order large project. So my system's working in the background. It's doing everything I want it to do. It can handle minimum stock points. It's assigning to jobs. It's pulling through the items as I would expect them to. You can see here, because the purchase order is for Laminex, the software is already intelligent enough to delimit the items based on my catalog just to Laminex, and then I can start filtering by category, SKU, barcode, brand, finish, range, anything I need to delimit this information and quickly find the items to add back in. But we've got the item there ready to go, and I'm going to order 100 more sheets just to make life really simple and get it happening. And this is for a special order for a large project next month. I want to get on top of it because I don't want to get to next month and then tell me they're out of stock. I have this order. I send this order. It's now been ordered, not a problem. I receive the order. And yes, don't worry, our software has splitting. It has the capability to partially receive and then fully receive later. All of that is built in. I now receive those items in. And if I now come back to my inventory, all wrapped up in one place, 120 sheets, 20 before, 100 now, ready to go, ready to be sourced from, as easy as that. Now, one caveat to that, yeah, that particular user case there is if I got an even better price again, let's say because I'm instead of ordering my 30 sheet pack, Laminex turn around and said, we're ordering 100 for this project. We're happy to give you a really good price, and I'll drop that down to $18 a square meter. Then there would be 10 items here. Why? Because you want to see the separation of price. But when you went to source and you use the auto sourcing, it's going to find them both. Not a problem at all, which is huge. Now, the best part about this is this whole system that I've just shown you there is A, not very difficult to set up once you start getting your catalog items in. And no, you don't need to put 14,500 catalog items in from Laminex. You can go in and to start using this system, and it doesn't matter whether you're a manufacturer of 2 persons or 200. This process improvement will buy you back time, mitigate waste, and reduce errors, all of which just puts money back in your pocket. So you don't have to go in and say, oh, this is huge. I'm going to have to spend 6 months entering catalogs into the system. You don't actually, you can CSV import them, or you can take advantage of our API connections. We're available for things like Hafele to bring in those catalog items, for example, or Wilson and Bradley. We've got most of their sets up on our website, so you can import them easily. I think Novastyle's up there. We're working with a lot of other major suppliers at the moment to get their catalogs to make life really easy, so people can just grab that CSV, import it, and start using this catalog. Not just for purchase ordering, it's also handy for quoting. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want to add things directly to a quote that isn't a quote pricing option. You know, it could be a Hafele pantry, or a Blum Wilson Bradley bin, or cutlery trays, or anything. Wheels, specific wheels for we've a client that makes steel bench tops, and I imagine they have a range of about 3 or 4 coaster wheels depending on the industry they're producing that for. Many, many, many options in which you want to add those things in. So expanding your catalog does give you greater benefit, not just for the purchase ordering and inventory side. It also then benefits your quoting. It also gets the benefit therein for the item specs. You can link them directly to materials, so you're getting really direct information from the lead management point for things that make sense. The guys on the team, they're just down there, they're selling. That information is now digital in one place that follows from the lead down to the job. There's a lot of benefit to building your catalog. But you don't have to spend weeks of your life building it. It's like any system. When you first started with your accounting platform, for example, there was no information in there. And over the coming weeks, you started doing things like adding, purchase orders and that. And it said, hey, you need to create an item code for this. And, cool, I'll make an item code. Now that item code's in there, I can use it for the rest of my life 100 million times. You can really think about your catalog in the same way. And this is my big recommendation, because I want people to take advantage of this. It's huge. You know what I mean? Having that ease of purchase ordering in, being able to put items in, having imaging available throughout the whole system for the whole team. So it doesn't matter whether they're purchase ordering, adding to quotes, receiving, pick listing, on the kiosk, on the office user. This feature in itself has massive benefit to reducing and mitigating waste and errors. Just that bit there, let alone everything else that the system can then offer you. So you don't have to think about getting all your supplies and all your information before you can start taking advantage of it. Just start with your top 20 items. And every company has them. Every company has those 20 items that they go in, that they're buying all the time. Whiteboard, hinges, sheet metal, channeling, coasters, screws, those things you buy all the time. Get them in there. Spend a few minutes. It's worth the time just getting some of that information in there, and start adding those things into stock, and then using the sourcing from the purchase order down. And you will immediately be able to start taking advantage of the system and see that return. And look, I know it's sort of a bit weird that I've left this one out to almost last through my series. I've focused through my series. If you were to watch this from front to back and you jump over the what's new ones and do the deep dive, I've sort of really focused in on the key areas for most people around. There's job scheduling and capacity management, kiosk and agenda screens, CRM, quoting. Sort of left it there for a while because if you get those four key components operating the system, it's paying for itself. It's benefiting your life. It's buying your time back. It's made sense. The investment's made sense. But the big one everyone wants to be able to step into is how can I then take advantage of this other massive module? There's so much behind this. I've only scratched the surface of what this can do for your business. That it's absolutely worth now understanding how you can set it up. So quote pricing materials directly to substitutes or quote pricing materials with just open categories such as handles that you can go searching for. Absolutely worth having. If you haven't put in all, 862 handle options from Hafele, don't worry about it. Add them as the orders come through, as a client actually picks it. You've got the quote pricing option there. So you've got the $20 handle range or the $40 handle range. You're not going to slow down your process quoting. You're still getting quotes out the door. You're still winning jobs. But as that person says, I want that Hafele handle, go to the website, grab the handle, grab the SKU, put the information in the system, and now it's there forever. And if anyone ever else picks up that handle again, it's there. And if you need to modify your pricing, it's there. It's easy to do. And over time, very quickly, it won't take long, over 6 months, you will build a list of about 1,500 items that you're commonly ordering. That are coming to the system that you can now inventory manage. If you've got things left over from jobs, they can be put into inventory so they can be sourced later. You've got the capability to run through all of those materials and utilize the system in an automated sense without even having to stress about adding up numbers. And let's be honest, that's what everybody wants. So absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I know it was a bit of a noisy one going in, but I really want to take a bit of time to get some of the nuanced understanding around this area because it is a massive benefit to a lot of customers. And certainly for you in your business, I know that you can certainly pick up the benefit of this and how you can use it. Sometimes it just needs a bit of understanding. So we're happy to provide that understanding so that you can get the best out of it. And I think the recent quality of life improvements in the releases have been amazing. And I think part of the thing is people may have been using our system previously for this and they weren't feeling it was sort of mirroring out 100%. Now you understand it. Hopefully you can make some small tweaks and then absolutely be able to take advantage of this moving forward, which is huge. So as always, everything I've covered is in the app help documentation and learnings. So you go to our document sites, go to our website, go to the academy, lots of places to find this information. Plus, of course, our YouTube. Highly recommend you subscribe and check it out. I'm always putting as much educational and free information as I can out there so people can really get the best use out of the software as possible. And if you have got more than enough out of this webinar and you're ready to get on with your day, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really do appreciate the attendees and the registries. It just keeps me going, keeps me motivated to put more and more content out there as I see more and more people joining and jumping in and utilizing this. So thank you very much. I do appreciate you. Have a phenomenal week. Last little big jump up is I will just quickly mention that for those of you who are in Australia or New Zealand and planning on coming across to the Build and Design show next week, we will be there. So really exciting. I'm sure you've seen the information that's been put out there about that by now. If you haven't thought about it, definitely check it out. Very good. It's going to be a fantastic show this year. We're really excited. It's a culmination. It's 3 shows in one, actually. And there's going to be a lot of software platform design companies, suppliers. I know Hafele's going to be there, and a lot of great opportunity to see what's going on, especially if you're in the cabinet making or joinery or millworking space in Australia. Lots happening. We're there. Stand 806. I'll be there. Fingers crossed. No, I'll be there. So make sure you come check us out. Also, some of our partners are going to be there as well, which is going to be even more exciting. So if you're seeing this video and you've thought about Jobman, you weren't yet convinced, and now that you know that it can handle your inventory and catalog management, you're like, oh, this is for me, and you happen to be in the area, come check it out, have a chat. And then, of course, while we're there, you can have a chat with the partners. Don't worry about finding this information. Just come to the website under media events, and you'll see this 12th to 14th of June. We'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, ready to rock and roll and nice and easy. So That's fantastic. That's easy to go. As always, if you've had enough, enjoy your day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, which will probably be the week after the design show.